friends, and welcome to Tom's Tinkering and Adventures. Today we're going to work on something here in my Global Domination headquarters. I am going to get started on the second shotgun that I received a while back. I'm going to show it to you here. This is a JC Higgins Model 58320. It's a 12 gauge. And it is a bolt action shotgun. Holds 4 in the tubular magazine and 1 in the chamber, so it's a 5-round shotgun. Shoots 2 3/4 inch shells. And let's see, it says here it is a full choke. So if you're familiar with shotguns, the choke is at the end of the barrel, how wide or narrow that is. So a more narrow choke means that your shot shells are going to be less spread out. So if it's wider, your shot pattern is going to be wider. So what we're going to do first is we're going to disassemble this thing. I guess we're going to learn how to disassemble it. Looking at it, I see we have a screw right here on the bottom. And I'm hoping that's going to take apart the entire wooden stock here. And then we have to figure out how to get this bolt out. And then we'll see what else we're going to take apart. And I think for this one, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sand down the wood, give this a new finish, and I'm probably just going to oil this whole thing down because there's a little bit of rust right here. So I might lightly hit it with some steel wool, and then we'll oil it and see what it looks like. So I'll grab some tools, and we'll see if we can figure out how to take this thing apart. I think it's kind of interesting here that I'm using my Craftsman tools to work on this JC Higgins shotgun, because JC Higgins is a Sears brand, as is Craftsman. And if you've been paying attention, the entire Sears Corporation seems to be just about done for. I don't know where they're at on that, but Sears is going out of business. Okay, so there we go. This all comes out pretty easily. This is pretty neat. It has kind of a captive screw here, so you can't lose this. And then we'll have to look at how we can get this trigger guard off and clean that up. But this doesn't appear like it should be too difficult to get cleaned up. We'll also look at this butt pad here, see if we can take that off. Ah, I said butt. All right, and usually your bolt has a release on it, and I don't see anything, but looking here, I don't know how well you can see it. Right in there, I can see a little channel machined in here, and it seems to be stopping right there. There's a screw. So my spidey senses are telling me that we can remove this screw maybe, and this bolt will come out. Ta-da. Okay. And the inner workings on this don't look too bad. I think I can probably just do a light cleaning on the receiver here and clean and lube up this bolt, and we'll be able to reassemble this. Let's see if we can get this butt plate off of here. Yes, I said butt again. It's pretty corroded, this screw, as is this one here. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time cleaning these up, and then we'll pull that off, and I will try to get this trigger guard off as well, and we'll come on back. All right, so we got these screws kind of cleaned up, and I got them started. And we'll probably just clean these up with some steel wool as well. This is pretty interesting that it says JC Higgins on there. Hopefully you can see that. I know the light's kind of bad here. JC Higgins right there. All right. So pretty simple to get it apart. Now we're going to get busy sanding this down, and what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to use I have a little dual action sander. I'm going to probably use that for most of this area here, as well as up here, these flatter areas, and then being careful on these rounded over edges, and then we'll use some hand sanding to get the rest of it cleaned up. So we'll see how this turns out. There's these little metal inserts right here. I guess that's kind of where this section here fits into there. And it looks like you need a special tool to remove that. I might have something. Let me take a look and see if I have something. If I can take that out, that'll make it a little bit easier. And removing this, looks like that's nailed inside of there. I don't know how well you can see it. There's some bent over little nails. So I don't imagine I'll be getting that out. So I'll just have to carefully sand around that area. All right, let's see how this little, what we got here? DeWalt orbital sander works. Okay, so there you can see it's only been like 20 seconds. So it's not going to take too much. And I'm going to try to see if I can't get some of these scratches and stuff out, but I don't want to go too deep. But I'll knock this out. You don't need to watch 20-30 minutes of sanding, and I'll show you what she looks like when we're done. Okay, so there's our finished product after some sanding. Did the majority of it with the orbital sander and a little bit with the hand sander. And I didn't want to take the finish off of here, but just hit it with the sander accidentally, and it started to take it off. And then even hand sanding was hard to get around that. Managed to not take too much off here, a little bit there, unfortunately, but it's okay. Same on this side. Took some of the gouges out, some of the scratches, but didn't want to sand too deeply. So what we're going to do now is we're going to see how this teak oil is going to look on here. So I'm going to get this stuff cleaned, shaken up, stirred up, whatever I need to do. Open it up, get some gloves on here, and I'll show you application of this. Probably not the whole thing because, like I said, you could sit and watch that for 5 minutes if you want, but I'm going to be living it, and I don't think you want to watch the whole thing. Okay, so I just have a piece of a rag here, and we're going to put some of this on here. We'll see how it looks. See, the original stuff that was on here was super dark, and you couldn't see the grain of the wood. And I'm imagining that this is walnut. I'm not great at identifying different types, but it's a nice hard wood, and the grain is really beautiful on it, in my opinion. Well, it's beautiful enough that it shouldn't be covered up with a dark varnish, but that was kind of the finish that was used back then. This gun, I don't remember if I said at the beginning, but these were made in the 50s. So you look at old rifles, shotguns from that time frame, they all had a really dark finish on them. And I like the way that this teak oil brings out the grain. So I'll get this thing finished, let it dry a bit, and I'm going to put another coat on, and then I'll show you what it looks like. All right, while we're waiting on the stock to dry here, we'll take a look at the receiver and the barrel. You can see some of the original bluing under here, which is not in bad condition, and then you can see where it was exposed out here, where it's a little bit corroded. So what we're going to try to do So I just have some, it's just PB Blaster here. We're just gonna put some on there. And we'll use some of this fine steel wool. I guess I'll use the gloved hand. There you go. And we'll see how that cleans up. Now we'll hit it with the rag. And it looks considerably better. So let's see, right about there is the worst of the corrosion on the barrel. So I'm gonna clean this all up, doing the same thing all the way down the barrel and on the magazine tube here. And I'll show you what she looks like when I'm done. Okay, so here we are after just hitting it with some, oh, there you got some dust on it. That's all that is. After hitting it with some steel wool and some penetrating oil, you can still see the rust, but it knocked it down a bit. And if you keep this barrel oiled, it's going to be okay. This gun doesn't have a whole lot of value. In good condition, it's probably worth maybe $100 or $150. So it's not worth a whole lot. So that being said, there's probably not a lot of people out here even putting this much effort into keeping a gun like this operating. But it should be a decent shooter. So I've cleaned this up. Cleaned up the trigger guard. So you can still see the rust on there, but keeping it oiled will keep the rust at bay. So an older gun like this that's just not worth a lot, yeah, you can spend as much time restoring it as you want. That's a personal thing. But for me, just trying to make it look a little bit nicer and make sure it operates correctly is the most important part. And here's the bolt. I've cleaned it up and get some gun oil, and I will lightly oil this up, as well as cleaning the barrel. As soon as we get that done and the stock dries, which I just put another coat on it, we'll reassemble this and see what it looks like. I'm always interested to see how the camera catches this, but may or may not be able to see, but the bore in here is just absolutely beautiful. It cleaned up perfectly shiny. So I need to do a little bit of cleaning still on the receiver end here, and then we're ready to put the bolt back in it. Okay, so we have the two pieces. I've installed the bolt back into the receiver, put the trigger guard back on, the butt plate, and let's get you in my fancy camera holder here. And we'll just put these two pieces back together. There we go. Should be just that easy anyway. There we go. When in doubt, don't force it. There we have it. Our JC Higgins Model 58320 12 gauge shotgun has been cleaned up. I don't want to say it's been restored or refinished because all we did is cleaned it up a bit. But it looks considerably better. The action, I can operate it with one finger pretty much. Nice and clean. It's a decent looking firearm at this point, and Now we have to take it out and test fire it. I'll save that for another video. But I'm pretty pleased with it. It's a decent looking old firearm at this point. Nice. Maybe not worth a whole heck of a lot, but it's worth something to me. It's a useful tool. So, yeah, I think what I could probably do is I'm going to measure this thing once I take the stock off of it. It might fit in the side cases on my Yamaha here. These big side cases might fit in there, taken apart. And I could drive out to the desert and we could do a little bit of shooting with these, the last two shotguns that I worked on. So, if you enjoy what you're seeing, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, and subscribe if you're not already. And as always, thank you very much for watching. Get out there and find your adventure. Adios.